Welcome back to JH Diesel. Guys, we're getting back into Ron Burgundy today. As you guys know, we hurt Ron Burgundy before Redneck Mud Park. We hurt it after Iron Horse. We hurt the transmission, got the transmission in it, started hearing the noise, so we figured, okay, let's figure out what that is. Ended up being a broken rocker arm, and the tip had worn the valve stem, so the valve stem was worn down, way down, which we'll show you here in a second. So we're going to get started on kind of fixing it. We got Cletus and Cars this weekend, so we want to make it out there to Cletus and Cars. We want the truck to be there, so we're going to get it basically running enough to get the truck there, and then that'll give us enough time right after Cletus and Cars. We'll have enough time between now and Louisiana Mud Fest, which is the end of the month. Hopefully have enough time to make this thing like we want it, get the cylinder head on it, fix the valve, all that kind of stuff. So we got us a fresh set. Comp cams, roller rockers, Gold Series. Here, these things are the best. Before we had some, kind of just some cheap ones somebody gave us. Jack Stan actually hooked us up with them, and I think they were just some stuff he had laying around.
We don't actually know if they were cheap ones. We don't know what they were.
Yeah, we don't know anything about them. So, but I'm assuming they were kind of on the cheaper side. So, but they worked. They were okay, but they ended up breaking the tip, which we showed you. We'll show you again, and you guys check out the valve stem, what it did there. So, guys, head on over to baldeagle.com, though. Get you a Ron Burgundy shirt. Help us with the overhaul on this thing. Get it back to running like it should. And don't forget, we got Cletus and Cars this weekend, along with the Freedom 500 Friday night, where we'll be piloting the number 88 Crown Vic. JH Diesel, get me out there piloting that thing. So we got Freedom 500 Friday night, Cletus and Cars Saturday. And I heard I might be doing a burnout. I don't know yet. We'll see. So it's just heard through the grapevine. So you can get your tickets at the gate if they're not sold out, or grab them online at thefote.com, or go on cletusmcfarland.com and check out the pay-per-view. You can get the live pay-per-view on all those events also. So, guys, we're going to get this thing going, get this hood up, start messing with it, get the rocker arm, get it running, and then we'll go from there. And then we're going to talk to you guys about the cost of mud trucks. We've had a lot of people ask us, what does it cost? What's it take to build one? This is a full 4-length, 5-ton mud truck. What does it take to build this truck? What materials do you need? We're going to go over everything in that aspect so you guys know, so you don't have to ask anymore what you got into something like this. That's one of our biggest questions that we get asked. What's it cost to build this? So we'll go over a very common build, and we'll tell you what we have in Ron Burgundy here, and we'll let you know what we got to this guy, and we'll just kind of go from there, and you guys hopefully enjoy that, and you can see what kind of stuff it takes to build something like this. Or, like we did, we bought something and did it as a budget, and we can tell you where we're at with that thing. So, let's check out this valve rocker arm. We'll get her done. Alrighty, so we're up here with our baby. So, that is what a good valve stem looks like. Clean that up around there, a little bit of dirt fell. That is what a clean valve stem, and then this is our other valve stem where the roller rocker malfunctioned at. So, as you guys could see, we were really worried about it getting down there in the valve spring, or the valve retainers, and that stuff, and popping the valve out, but that's not good. So we are going to fix that. But for this weekend, we got a fresh set of roller rockers. We're going to snag one of these old ones here, and we're just going to put it over that one, so just so we can drive it into the track, out of the track, and we got something in there, be able to park it there next to the booth, and hopefully make the place look a little bit better. But we're gonna see if we see anything else inside there towards the cam. If we don't, we'll slap it back together and be ready to rip. Well, ready to rip it to the merch booth, and then see if she fires up and everything runs good. All right, guys, so a lot of people have been asking, and we get a lot of questions when we're out at these events. What does it cost to have this? What does it cost? I can't really say what it costs to have that, because you're gonna be, that one's a little different than a bog truck like this. So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna go over how much we have into this truck after it's all said and done, and we'll let you know what the total is for what it would cost to build this truck. So most of the time, bog trucks, guys will take a truck that they're running, driving on the road, whether it's an F-250, 350, 1500, whatever, full body truck. A lot of them now, they're building their diesels. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna show you like what an entry level build would be, which I actually, it's probably more than an entry level build, but this build can significantly go up with additions, with overlay plating, with chrome and polished and bigger tires and rear steer, and there's so many things that can make these builds go up. The steps, hydraulic steps, that kind of stuff. But what we're going to do is kind of give you a rundown so you kind of know what it takes to to basically build one of these, and then also what it would take to basically maintain one, and then what we have into this truck, which is looking a little beat right now. We got to get her polished up, especially for the weekend. So we do have it running again. We just got that rocker arm on, which is awesome. So we got that thing back together just so we can get out to Cletus and cars. So first things first, the truck. That's huge. That can go, you can range anywhere from, you know, a $5,000 truck to $80,000, $100,000 truck to start with. Some guys are building brand new trucks. And so, but for, let's say, your average guy, let's say you take this truck. This, give or take, is probably 4-door, 2002 Chevy Silverado. If it had a Duramax in it, you're probably looking anywhere from 10 to 15 grand with a couple 100,000 miles on it. So you start there. So you got your truck body, 10 to 15 grand, running, driving truck, ready to go. Now, your first thing that you want to do, this is the first thing that we want to do in a build. How big do you want to go? How big do you want the truck? Typically, you'll pick, I want this size tire. So these tires that are on this truck now are an 18-4-26. Tractor tires run off a different system, but it's an 18-4-26, which means it's 18.4 inches wide with a 26-inch rim, which also means that when you basically do the math on it, it's 57 inches tall, 18.4 inches wide with a 26-inch. Did I say 20-inch rim?
26.
Yeah, 26. I might have screwed that up. 18.4 tall or 18.4 wide, 57 inches tall, 26-inch tall rim. These rims are 20 inches wide. So your wheel and tire package, this is a little smaller than what a lot of guys use. I'm going to run off a 23-126, which is 23.1 inches wide, 26-inch rim, and then they're 66 inches tall. Average new tire, you're looking at about $1,200 to $1,500 per tire on a brand new tire on that. That's kind of your average price for an R2. R2 tread is the heavier tread. A lot of the bigger 5-ton trucks do that. So let's say, you know, you're looking at that, you know, $5 to $6 grand for a set of tires. Wheels. Your wheels can go anywhere from $3 grand, $3,500 for a 26 by 20. Give or take, guys, these are estimates, but at least you guys kind of know where you're at with that. So now you know how big you want the truck, what size tire you want. You got to figure out what shocks you want to go with. This truck, personally, this truck is a little lower, but they also built the shock brackets and tabs a little tall. So they're pretty tall. And then, so basically this truck is, you know, raised up pretty good, but these shocks are only 14 inches travel. Typically on a truck on this size tire or a 23-126, which is the tire I'm talking about, I would want my truck to probably be on an 18 or 20 inch travel shock. Probably 18 would be the best. So my Ford originally ran 18-inch travel. We just bumped them to 16, but the different shock is going to be taller. So how that works, you know. But a set of shocks, good company to deal with, CNC, big shocks, you're looking at give or take around $3,500, one of those two companies. So now you got your wheels, your tires, your shocks, your truck. Now you're going to figure out your axle size. So a lot of guys with a real high horsepower gas truck, unlike this truck, they run a high horsepower gas truck. Those guys, they want to run a 2.5-ton axle. It's lighter, faster, F106 axle. You can lower the truck down, that kind of stuff. On a bigger bog truck like this, we chose to do the 5 tons like we did on mine. I like the 5 tons. They're bigger, heavier. They're not going to break as much. You're going to have far less issues. And a lot of guys are going to 5 tons. They make hater kits for the 2.5 tons. You can make a Meritor outers, all kinds of stuff they offer. But, and like I said, a normal typical build, 5 tons, you're going to look at probably around $2,500 for a set of axles, and then you have to go through them, redo the bearings, seals, make sure they're all good. Normally, you don't have to go in the chunk unless you're going to weld them, make them solid. So a lot of guys will weld the chunks, front, rear, one or the other. They'll weld those up. So now you got your wheels, your tires, your shocks, your axles. So now we're going to go to the center of the truck and check out our transfer case. So basically, you're always going to have a divorce transfer case on a mud truck like this. This is a SCS 12.6-inch drop transfer case. It runs anywhere from a I think they go from like a 1.6 ratio all the way up to like a 5.5 ratio, give or take. So you have a huge wide range depending on your final drive gear in the case and the gears that you pick. This one right now, we are running a 5-to-1 in this case. Truck's not super powerful. It's got a big tire on it, big axles. So I have the gear pretty low so we can hold first and second gear in the mud. So your transfer case, you're gonna run about $3,000 with flanges. You have 3 flanges that go on the transfer case. Give or take, you're about $3,000. Just now, these are, like I said, guys, these are not discounted. These are not buddy pricing. This is what somebody who has no idea about a mud truck should probably be paying. And then connecting your transfer case, you got 3 drive shafts. You got your 1 drive shaft that comes off the transmission, which is your jack shaft. You got your 2 drive shafts, which come off the transfer case. And those drive shafts are all custom built normally. These ones, a little different than normal, but normally, you know, drive shafts, you can buy flanges and get them built, whatever else. Drive shafts are going to run you anywhere from probably $1,200 to $1,500 for all of them, balance the whole deal. So there's kind of your transfer case, your drive shafts, your tires, your wheels, your axles, your shocks, that whole system. And then now we'll bump it over to the back here, and you guys can check out the brake system. So this truck has 2 brakes on it. It's got a brake on the rear end, and it's got a brake on the back of the transfer case. Typically, my truck, my 6.0 mud truck, runs a brake on each axle. So I run a pinion brake here and a pinion brake up front. Brake kits, there's a wide range of brake kits. We're going with average prices here. Average prices on a brake kit, you're probably looking at, you know, these are lower end, anywhere from a pair of probably $600. These are just Toyota calipers. And I don't say they're lower end, like lower quality. These are just more simpler brakes. You have a rotor, you got a caliper, small bracket. These right here, they range about $600 for probably the pair of brakes with the calipers, the rotors, the whole deal. You go up higher with Willwood, probably looking anywhere from $1,000, $1,500 for a set. I would say closer to $1,500. So let's say we'll keep it around that $600 range, give or take $700 range for these, which you can buy. A lot of your local builders will build them and they'll have them there. On top of that, guys, you got your steel for the truck. Anytime that we build a truck, as we've shown you in the past videos, we run 2-inch 250 wall tubing for our link bars, for our frame, for our anything on this subframe that we do typically is a big bar, unless it's something small, such as I don't even know, man. Like
your steps, you can do your steps.
Steps will be a little smaller
material
if you want to, stuff like that. But for the most part, your main subframe, your link bars, all that stuff, 2-inch 250 wall. DOM is what I prefer to use. As you guys saw what happened to seam pipe. Didn't work very well, so that's why I choose to do that. So your steel on these trucks, figure it up. You got 8 link bars. All these trucks are close to the same as far as wheelbase. They're within a foot or 2 of each other. But you got 8 link bars, and you got all your drop downs for your subframe, your transfer case bracket, everything in there. You're probably looking at give or take around 6 joints of tubing. With the way pricing is for a DOM right now, you're probably looking at around $3,000, maybe $3,500, depending on how much DOM you need. But $3,000, $3,500 for DOM tubing. And you know, you got small stuff in here. Let's say $3,500 probably include building a nice hitch, reinforce that, a couple things like that along those lines. So now we jump up to the front here, and this is a huge crucial part to your build. Your truck's got a steer. So here we've got, this truck has a PSC steering ram, which is full hydraulic steering, and it goes to an orbital valve up top. So you got an orbital valve, you got a ram. I'm just gonna tell you on a regular ram and an orbital valve, not necessarily a double-ended ram like this, you're probably looking about probably looking about $1,000, $1,200 for steering, give or take. That would be the ram, your orbital valve, your lines, fittings, that kind of stuff. You're probably looking at, you know, $1,200 give or take. So that would be something you have to build, make work. But typically you bolt them the front or the rear of the axle, depending on how you want it set up. So there's your steering, there's your brakes, transfer case, wheels, tires, axles, shocks. Now you get into your smaller stuff. So, all right, so now moving on, any truck that's 4-linked, hydraulic steering, this kind of stuff, you gotta run a sway bar. This truck runs 1 sway bar. You don't have to run a front and rear sway bar if you don't want to. I prefer to run a 1 sway bar. I like it a little bit better that way. The truck's a little looser, can flip over easier, it happens. But I do prefer having 1 sway bar rather than 2, because there are some times when having 2 will actually make the truck flip over easier, because now you don't keep an axle on the ground, you pull into a deep hole, that axle just pops up with the truck and now you flip over. Seen it happen. So now you got your sway bar kit on there. This one's running the front. Let's say you're running a front sway bar on there. Sway bar kits go for anywhere from around $300 to $400 for a front and a rear for a basic sway bar kit. Nothing crazy, nothing special. And then now you got your 4-link kits, which your 4-link kit's gonna include sway bar brackets, shock brackets. You're gonna include helmets, tabs, 4-link tabs, all that stuff on there. Those actually are fairly inexpensive. They're about $500-600 for a decent made 4-link kit, depending on what material you make it out of and whatnot. But they're about, you know, that $500, $600, not terrible. But there's your 4-link kit. So you have those front, rear helmets. These are your helmets. These are your tabs, all that stuff. Heim joints, you can be looking anywhere from $500 give or take for Heims. Probably another $500 give or take for bolts. Every single bolt down here, you should use brand new, I think, grade 8s. And you should use them down here as far as for your steering, for your shocks, for your link bars, the whole 9, everything. So this truck, it's obviously been around the block. It's been used and abused a little bit. So last but not least, to finalize your build, you're gonna wanna paint everything and powder coat everything. And that can play, depends on how extravagant you wanna get. Typically, a typical 4-link job, you're gonna paint the axles, you're gonna paint the subframe, and then you're gonna basically powder coat your link bars, maybe powder coat your shocks, your sway bars, your wheels, your steering bars, that kind of stuff. You'll powder coat all that stuff. You're looking at probably around $2,500 for a powder coat job. And on top of that, you're probably looking anywhere from $500 to $1,000 for paint. So that kind of gives you a really, really, really good idea on what it'll take to build one of these trucks. And I'm gonna give you a wide range on the price. But that's kind of a good idea, starting with a running driving truck, what it's gonna cost to build this truck from nothing. Drive it in your shop, and then, you know, you got stuff where, hey, I can sell the axles, I can sell the original wheels and tires. If it had a lift kit, you can sell that. There's ways to make your money back on the build so you're not stuck with the whole thing. But that's saying taking the truck, driving it right in the shop, and done. So at this point, to build this truck right here, if you drove it in your shop, you're looking, and I priced everything on the higher end when I calculated it up. You're looking at about $45,000 to $46,000, including the donor truck. So let's say you have a donor truck and it owes you nothing, instantly knock 15 grand right off the top. You're down to 30 grand. Now, that is no labor. So if you don't want to figure in the price of the truck, that is strictly parts. And that's say you take a truck and drive it right in the shop. And then at that point, you can take off for doing your lift kit. Let's say you sell your wheels and tires if it was lifted for 5 grand or something, or you sell the lift kit and stuff like that. You could probably get it down to maybe 20, 25 grand at a reasonable amount for parts on this thing after reselling a couple things like axles and stuff like that. So, but realistically, if you didn't have anything and you said, I want to build a mud truck, I don't even have a truck, you go buy a truck for around 15 grand. And then on the higher end of all that stuff, you're probably looking about $45,000 to $46,000 before labor. So when you see these trucks out there for sale for 40, 50 grand, and some 60, 80, 100 grand, you know why? Because a lot of these guys didn't spare an expense and they built it right. I can tell you, when I built my mud truck back in 2014, 15, we collected parts for probably about an 8-month time period. I ended up doing my truck, building it with all brand new parts, nothing used, for right around 20 grand, no labor. Add labor on top of that. I think anybody on a basic build like that, mine, whatever, you're probably gonna be around that 10, give or take $10,000 worth of labor. So it would have cost about 30 grand to build my truck, but I had the truck to supply too, and the truck could have probably sold for about 10 or 12 grand in that market. This market now, these trucks are worth way more. So even back then, including labor, I would have been closer to that 45 grand, but now, including labor nowadays, you're probably closer to that 55, 60 grand. So that was my truck back in the day, and that was us building it. So I keep seeing something here. Yeah, that's what I thought that was.
A crack in the front diff?
No. Good? Action. All right, front end's fine, don't worry about it. So anyways, now we get to Ron Burgundy. Our boy Ron Burgundy we got, had the crushed cab, had, it was overheating when we got it, had a couple issues we had to fix on it just to get it running. But here's why we went ahead and purchased it. Obviously, you guys know what it costs to build a new one if I were to drive this truck in the shop. This truck already had a good platform, big block, turbo 400, 5-ton axles, 4-linked with shocks, all that stuff, a lot of stuff. Needed some work, but all in all, it was good. The cab obviously needed to be pushed back out. We pushed the cab out for free, so that cost us nothing. And then we just did some maintenance on it, which really cost us nothing. I had some bearings laying around for the front end, just dumb stuff I had sitting around. So you guys know, so we ended up paying $11,750 for Ron Burgundy. That's what we originally paid from the original owner. And, you know, it was one of those things. We bought it right. He got his money out of it. He knew what he was selling. It was just one of those things that, you know, you had to sell to the right buyer. It took some work to make. Somebody could have probably sat in it, putted around, put a water pump in it and a radiator and fans and been fine, but we always take our stuff to the next level. So we got the truck for $11,750. Bone stock, big block, stock turbo 400, all that stuff. Had a nice shifter in it, that kind of stuff. We went ahead and put a full top end kit on it. We did heads, cam. We did a set of big, nice electric fans off like a Duramax diesel, one of the Flex Slide aftermarket fans. Heads, cam, fans, water pump, intake, a brand new Holley carburetor 750 on there. So we did all that stuff. Give or take parts was probably around $5,000. That's basically a guesstimate right there. So right now, you got basically 12 plus 5 around 17, a little under 17,000. And then we went as far as doing the transmission, which is about a $1,500 job for us. We had a good converter, we had a manual valve body, and then, you know, the trans was kind of hooked up from a buddy of mine. He helped me out with it and freshened everything up, about $1,500 in the trans. And on top of that, we went ahead and replaced the tubing for the 4-link. You guys know that, the DOM, we had about $800 in the tubing. This is no labor. We reused all the Heims. We didn't throw away the Heims. I actually had some scrap Heims I think we used here, right?
Yeah, and some old bungs that we
Some bungs we had to re-weld in, but all that stuff was just kind of part of it. So that pretty much sums up what we've done to this truck. Now, we've had a couple things that we did. We've been taking out and beating on it. Obviously, we put the better tires and wheels on it. I got these in a trade deal. By the time I sold the other tires and wheels, I really didn't have much money out on these tires and wheels. I traded somebody for those. We had the headers. That was stuff we had laying around. We made that. We just made that stuff work. Other stuff, we fixed the shock. That was actually fairly cheap. I'm not really going off of what stuff we've broken, because if you add that bill up, it's just going to be endless. So figuring up all that stuff, we're basically right around $19,000, not include the trade deals, not including all that. And we go out there, we bog all day, we run it all day. We do try to maintain this thing, oil changes, that kind of stuff. Make sure we keep fresh fuel in it. We don't want fuel to go bad, anything like that. Obviously, we serviced the rear axle. We did weld the rear trunk, but again, we didn't have to do that. We chose to do that stuff. So I'm not figuring it up. So guys, realistically, and I see deals like this all the time on Facebook Marketplace. You'll see a 2.5-ton truck or a 5-ton truck. Might be a single cab Chevy, might be a square body Chevy, might be something that, you know, a 4-door, might be a Ford, just a gas truck. These things are selling for anywhere from around 10, 15 grand, kind of in the same position, minus the crushed cab. And, you know, or they need a little bit of mechanical work to them. So for 20 grand or so, and you can do that over time. Obviously, not everybody's got 20 grand laying around. We didn't. We kind of built this thing as we went. It wasn't like I just shelled 20 grand out and said, here you go. So not a lot of people will either. So you can get into the mud game for that 10, 15, 20 grand, get to playing with something. And as long as you do it right, make it right, you can be out there in the mud bogging with us and everybody else. So guys, that's what we got into it. We're right about 19 grand in this truck, give or take, say 20 grand after everything's all said and done with the trade deals and fixing some broke stuff on it that we broke and stuff. And then on top of that, trying to go and buy a truck like this and build it, you're probably looking around 45 grand. And then a lot of the more higher notch, top notch trucks, guys, you know, with labor and stuff in them, you're gonna be that 45, 55, 60, upwards of $200,000 some of these guys got in these trucks. I won't name any names, but there's some trucks out there, they have a ton of money into them, and they work well, and they're very flashy. They're nice. They got more lights on it than a Circuit City had back in the day. I mean, these things are crazy. So either way, this one, straight up bog truck, guys, that's what we got into it. Not a lot of people have asked us on what it takes to get into this thing, but we're going to leave that for you guys today. That's it. A lot of people ask, any more questions that you guys want to know the answers to? Give us a holler, let us know. We'll tell you guys. We got no problem hiding what we got into stuff or what it takes to get into this stuff or anything that we do if you guys are interested. We'll try to keep you guys up to date on that. So we appreciate all the support. Don't forget to head over to baldeagle.com, grab you some Ron Burgundy shirts, or we got the JH hats in stock. All that good stuff's there. Thank you again for watching the JH Diesel channel. We will see you next time.